Hey, welcome. Today, we're going to talk about something we all deal with literally every single day, our emotions. But we're going to look at them through a really specific lens, exploring what one biblical text has to say about the whole point of our feelings.
So let's just jump right in with the big question that our source material asks. What is the point of our emotions? Why do we even feel things like joy or anger or sadness? This whole explainer is really about unpacking one text's fascinating answer to that question.
So how does this text even begin to answer that huge question? Well, it starts by saying that our emotions aren't just these random, chaotic things that happen to us. Instead, it lays out this really clear four-step process, a kind of map from an event all the way to our final action.
Okay, let's walk through these 4 steps to see how it works. Let's say an event happens. Your friend Bob walks right past you and doesn't say hello. Now here comes the most important part. Step 2, your interpretation. Do you think, oh, Bob must be having a rough day? Or do you think, wow, Bob is totally ignoring me? See, that one little interpretation? That's the fork in the road. It completely drives the emotion you feel next, and that in turn decides how you act.
Now, this is where the whole idea gets really, really interesting. The source suggests that this emotional process, it isn't just for humans. It actually points to a ton of passages in the Bible that describe God as having a full, complex emotional life too.
The text highlights at least 6 key emotions. We're talking everything from anger and sorrow to joy and love, and it connects each one directly to God with specific verses. Now, according to this view, these aren't just random divine moods. They're presented more like archetypes, almost like a divine blueprint that helps us make sense of our own feelings.
Okay, so let's dive into what this text says about each of those 6 emotions. We're going to look at the specific guidance it offers for each one and see what kind of patterns start to show up. First up, anger. And the source makes us ask a really important question right off the bat. Is anger always a bad thing, or could it actually have a proper place?
The guidance here is pretty revealing. Notice the focus isn't on just getting rid of anger. It's about managing it. That phrase, slow to anger, suggests it's a call for being thoughtful and in control, which is a world away from just blind reactive rage.
Next, the source talks about sorrow. It really treats sadness as this deep, valid part of being human, something that we're meant to feel profoundly.
This verse is used to frame sorrow not as the end of the story, but as a season. In this worldview, sadness isn't ignored. It's felt, it's acknowledged, but it's also viewed as something that ultimately has an endpoint, a future moment of healing. All right, let's switch gears and look at joy. The source presents joy as something much deeper and more stable than just, a fleeting moment of happiness.
The way this is phrased is incredible because it's not a suggestion, it's an instruction, a command almost. Rejoice! This really drives home the idea that joy isn't just a passive feeling that washes over you, but an active choice, something you're meant to pursue no matter what's going on around you.
Okay, so when it comes to love, the text makes a crucial point. It's defined less by how you feel and way more by what you do. It's a verb.
And this verse is held up as the gold standard. So love isn't just this passive internal emotion, it's an active behavior that you're supposed to model. The text basically defines love by this divine example of action and sacrifice, which makes it way more than just a feeling.
Now we get to compassion. The text describes this as seeing the world and all the people in it through this lens of mercy and real understanding.
This passage just paints such a vivid picture of compassion. It's not about pity from a distance, it's about a deep, empathetic gut reaction that comes from truly seeing and getting the vulnerability of other people.
And finally, the text gets into a really complicated one, an emotion that's so often misunderstood, jealousy. And it draws this incredibly sharp line between 2 very different kinds of jealousy.
So on one hand, you've got what the source calls human jealousy, the kind that's destructive, that leads to envy and chaos. But then it contrasts that with what it calls God's jealousy and reframes it completely. It's described as this protective passion, something that fiercely guards a relationship and demands total commitment.
So after digging into these 6 specific emotions, the text kind of zooms back out to the big picture. It encourages us to think about the fundamental purpose of our feelings in the first place.
And this famous line from Ecclesiastes just says it all, doesn't it? The whole point is that our emotions aren't simply good or bad. They're all legitimate parts of being human. The real wisdom is in understanding that each one has its own right time and its own right place. And that brings us right back to where we started. This whole framework is a 4-step process. So the question it leaves us with
is a really personal one. In your own life, which step do you have the most power to change? Is it the events themselves? Is it how you interpret them? Is it the feelings that result? Or is it the actions you choose to take? That's a powerful question to think about.